is something. I know in talk radio, when you say you're going to talk to Joe Walsh, it always means that congressman from Illinois.
It's not right.
Who was on the show yesterday, as a matter of fact, because he's part of that committee on the whole Fast and Furious and all that kind of deal. Yeah. But today, we're going to talk to Joe Walsh, and it's the really famous Joe Walsh.
Well, all I know is Congressman Joe Walsh did not have a song that we just played that played over the closing credits for 1979's The Warriors, Walter Hill's classic about gang warfare.
Look at that, Joe
starring
Walsh.
Michael Beck and James Remar, of course.
The real Joe Walsh is on the Super Celebrity
Now
Hotline.
we're talking.
Joe, thanks for being with us. Hey, Joe. All right. Now, first of all, now there was kind of an interesting thing. You came out in it just to. I just want to get the politics out of the way real fast here, and then we can talk about, because I know you're going to be in town playing a new album out and all that. We're going to talk about that. But you came out in support of Joe Walsh, the congressman's opponent, Tammy Duckworth.
I did.
Now, did you? But here's the question I have for you: if your name were Joe Welsh, as opposed to Walsh, and you were famous as Joe Welsh from the Eagles, would you have come out? Would they have asked you? Did you ask them? How did this happen?
Well, regardless of who Tammy's running against, I would be supporting her. Okay, my son is a Harvard graduate who pays attention to national politics, and he brought to my attention, hey, somebody's running against the other Joe Walsh, and so he said you should check her out. It's a her, and I did, and I'm very, very impressed with Tammy. I see nothing but integrity and untapped ability. And I have decided to try and help her.
How much of the Joe Walsh confusion has there been in your life?
Well, I know which one I am.
Well, I know that, and you've certainly been on the scene for a very long time, but do people ever... no one confuses you.
You don't get his mail or anything, do you, Joe?
Right.
I get some Twitters.
Oh, you got some tweets probably, right.
People are mad at him, and I get it. I get blasted.
Wow. Or, that's kind of interesting. Now, do you ever...
Like, when are you going to help me find a job?
Yeah, stuff like that.
And when you call to make a restaurant reservation, does anybody say, oh, the congressman or the rock star? Does anybody ever ask that?
No, but I'm sure when I'll get to Chicago, there's going to be some really confused looks from people.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I say that's very interesting how you've done that. I think that's a fascinating thing. Have you been in politics before? You ever dive into this before?
No, not on this level. Well, yeah, I guess so. Helped Alan Cranston a long time ago.
Yeah.
Was a California senator.
Right.
Helped some people along the way, but I've never really jumped in here and signed on to the point of backing like I'm doing Tammy.
And Joe, your son, who alerted you to Tammy's campaign, what does he do?
He is in New York studying at the Metropolitan Opera. He's got an amazing opera voice.
That's awesome. In the city!
I'd like to hear him do Life's Been Good in a whole opera kind of setting.
I don't think you would.
My Maserati does 185.
Right, exactly. That's the line I want to hear. Like that.
Yeah, except he would have to sing it in German.
Yeah. I'm sure someone's already done that in Germany. I'm sure someone's already done my Maserati Der 185.
Yeah.
All right. Well, okay, now hold on one second, because Tammy Duckworth is on the other Super Celebrity Hotline, so hold on one second.
How are you?
Good. So, Tammy, now this is a weird deal. I'm still a little confused. Who contacted whom? Did Joe contact Tammy or Tammy contact Joe?
We reached out to Joe's son, and hey, do you think that a rock legend would actually take a moment to take a look at the campaign? And it was really amazing, because the immediate response was, well, he's from the Midwest, he's from Evanston, and we'll get back to you. And then within about 2 days, we got the call back because, he said that he stands up for everything that we're standing up for with people in the district. And so we're so proud to have Mr. Walsh's endorsement.
And Tammy, you can, I guess, legally say in your ads, even Joe Walsh doesn't think Joe Walsh should have another term in Congress.
God.
Well, I don't think I'm going to do that. It's just going to be really amazing to have someone who, throughout, if you listen to Joe's music, he's a guy who really believes in people getting a second chance, people, coming back if you're down. And that's really where, my district is right now. So it's going to be great for the district, and we're going to have a really good time this Sunday.
Yeah. Okay. And all right. Now let's explain what's going to happen. What are you doing Sunday?
Mr. Walsh is putting on a concert for us here in Schaumburg. And so we've got a bunch of volunteers coming out, and we have some folks who are buying tickets and coming out, and it's just going to be a good old rock and roll. I think good time. I think a lot of people are digging out their old concert T-shirts. I know I got my Confessor T-shirt I'm going to be wearing. So
nice.
It's going to be fun.
Confessor. Oh, God. All right. Now, you may have just lost a few votes on that. I'm not quite so sure. I'll be honest with you.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, I don't know.
Hey, I was in college in the 80s, so...
Now, Tammy, were you more of what was your top band in the 1980s? Don't say the Eagles, because I know that just because Joe Walsh was on the phone.
Well, I got to tell you, it's probably going to be between the Eagles and Fleetwood Mac.
Oh. Oh, all right, okay. I still don't believe it. All right, okay, fine.
You don't believe it, huh?
I don't believe it. I kind of see Tammy Duckworth as more of a... I see sort of
Tammy,
more
that's just because
Striper.
Roe's more of an ABBA man, so he's a little threatened by your rock credentials, okay?
Do not knock on ABBA.
Uh-oh.
You got to rock the spangly jumpsuit sometimes.
Nice.
Yeah, I suppose. All right, Tammy.
With Mac, man, some of the best music around.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll second that.
All right, Tammy, thanks very much. Joe, hold on one second, okay? Because we want to talk about the new album with you. Hold on one second.
All right.
All right, and then we'll give you more of the concert details here. But first, 45 seconds in heaven, and we always gotta check in with the Christina Filiaggi on the fives.
Sure.
Which right now she wakes up on the fives.
What?
Which is really
gosh.
hard. She gets 4 minutes of sleep. Then she kind of drifts out of it, does a report, drifts back in, and then wakes up on the fives.
It works for me.
That's how it works. Christina. Thank you, Christina. I think you did an excellent job there.
Joe Walsh, table for two. Joe Walsh, table for two.
And then Joe Walsh, the rock star, arrives, and Joe Walsh, the congressman, arrives. Who gets the table for two faster? Joe Walsh, rock star. Answer that question.
Well, the table's for both of us, right?
No, it's you and your date and he and his
me
date.
and my date.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. That'd be very confusing right there. All right, so let's talk about the new album. It's a new solo project you've got, right?
Yes, it is. First one in a long time, called Analog Man.
And it's Analog Man in a digital world.
Yeah.
It's basically what's happening there. I was reading something about this, and without getting too pry-y, and tell me if I'm getting too pry-y about this, this is one of your first projects that you've done, sort of reflecting back on your sobriety, because you've been sober now for a number of years, right?
18, yeah.
18 years, and so this is kind of a way of also kind of looking back on the difference between the Life's Been Good Joe Walsh and the sober Joe Walsh.
Yes, it is. First thing I've really done sober, and it's different. I work in the daytime. And stuff like that, but it's good. It's really good.
Yeah, and I've seen a little bit of you've been doing you did some of the morning TV shows and some other television to do this. It's an interesting. I find the album to be really interesting because you're going back musically to some of that stuff that. Some of your earlier solo stuff, and then you can also hear your influence in the Eagles, because when you listen to any Eagles album, you can sometimes pick out who did what. Right?
Yeah.
Who was writing what? Right. Who was influencing, which portion of the album?
Yeah.
What do you prefer to do? Do you like working with a group and a band like that, or to be in solo?
I really like them both. The Eagles is kind of a bigger scale. when I play solo, I get to play some smaller venues, and it's more fun to interact with the audience, and everybody has a good seat. But when the Four Eagles are together, it turns into something bigger than any of us individually, and when we don't do it, we really miss it. So I probably have the best of both worlds, you could say.
And Joe, what do you make of the way music? Well, first of all, even the release of an album now, it's like, well, the album's out, which means you can go to iTunes, of course, and I don't know, you could try to find a record store somewhere. But I mean, it's a whole different pattern of releasing music. But what do you make of the current state of music with all the auto-tune stuff that's out there, and sort of how like pop and hip hop dominates?
Yeah, well, that's what analog is about. It's a whole new technology, digital technology. It's changed the way you make records, and it's eaten the record store infrastructure. It's eaten intellectual property. It's, to some degree, eaten classic radio. So people want to know my advice to young musicians, and I really don't have any. I'm trying to figure it all out, too.
Yeah, I think everybody, that's a really excellent point. And, you'd think that people who've been in the business as long as you have, or, anybody who's been in radio, they're like, oh, you guys will figure it out. But it's a brave new world for everybody, because it's hard to figure out how you're going to make money, because, as you're pointing out, a lot of stuff is available now for free that shouldn't be for free, but it gets digitally pirated or stolen or just downloaded onto sharing sites, and even though a new album can come out and sell 10,000 units, which is very small by comparison to what albums used to do, but 500,000 people have it. Off those 10,000 units, and so it's really hard to keep the economies of scale going there. Are you working on? I mean, even though it's called Analog Man, are you doing? I mean, all that security work that you have to do around the download files to be able to track them as they're moving. I mean, that costs a ton of money too, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, not so much that. That's out of control. There's not a whole lot you can do. All you can kind of do is try and let people know you have an album out, and if they know, they'll find it. But that's all social networking and all of that stuff. Like you say, it's a whole new world, and everybody's trying to figure it out.
Right, nobody knows.
And there's no money in making albums anymore. The royalties are gone. It's all gone. You make money touring now, and it used to be the other way around.
And, you obviously, you've got the body of work, James Gang, solo stuff, Eagles, solo stuff, again, to go out and tour. A lot of these, so-called hot acts, they have a couple of singles, but they don't really have the abilities and certainly don't have the catalog to actually go out and tour. They would do a 7-minute concert.
And then their encore is Life's Been Good. That's the damnedest thing about it. They're doing your stuff. All right. Are the Eagles getting back? Not that they've broken up, but are the Eagles going to be touring again? Or they have announced any dates for that?
Next year is our 40th anniversary as a band.
Wow.
And based around that, the plan is to put a whole new retrospective show together and go out and have a Happy Birthday to Us tour.
Nice.
That's going to take a lot of work, but we're gonna start working on it in January, and at some point, I would think you'll hear from us again next year.
Well, tell Henley and Fry to behave and get along with each other. Will you?
Well, you tell them; they won't listen to me.
Right. Joe's been trying for years, trying to get them to work this out.
Yeah.
All right. John Barleycorn on July 1st in Schaumburg, by the way, is the fundraiser that Joe Walsh is doing for Tammy Duckworth. Thanks very much. Appreciate it, Joe, for being with us. Great luck with the new album, man.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me on, you guys.
Thanks, Joe.
There he goes, Joe Walsh. This is one of the great songs of all time. It's the truth. How many bands do this as a cover? They always let the one guy the guitarist do it. Hey, we're going to leave the stage for a little while. Our guitarist can do this. It's his favorite song of all times.